Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings for Friday, January the 6th. As per usual, on Fridays, we got a big slate, and we got 11 games tonight, guys. So, as always, we're going to go game by game. We're going to talk through each one of these 11 games, give you guys kind of my quick thoughts on this slate, what I do like, taking a first look on Thursday night. Before we get started talking through each game, though, as always, if you guys do enjoy these DFS videos, if they do help you out, please hit that like button down below. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to the channel, check out PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the sponsor of this video. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks. Use my promo code Noah. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. And for those of you that are unaware about PrizePicks, what they are, they're a player prop site. So you're just picking over or under, more or less on a player's projection. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 6 picks, and you can win up to 25x your money on PrizePicks. So give them a try, guys. Sign up with that promo code, and you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. But let's go ahead and talk through this big Friday night slate, and we'll start off with the first game of the night, Portland and Indiana. So looking at this one, there isn't a ton I really like in this game. On the Portland side, we do need to keep an eye on the status of Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant is currently questionable. This will be something to monitor. If Jeremy Grant does get ruled out, I don't know if there's going to be like any standout value from Portland. All the guys kind of got priced up a little bit. Josh Hart is 6,500 now. Simons is 6,700. Dame is 9,700. I don't know if there would be any standout plays from Portland. Nurkic is only 6K. I think at that 6K price tag, I kind of like Nurkic here. Indiana has given up some big games to centers this season. I think it's a pretty good spot for Nurkic. Barring injury or foul trouble or blowout, he should play about 30 minutes here. So I like Nurkic at 6K. Value-wise, if Jeremy Grant does get ruled out, I don't know who would start in place of Jeremy Grant. It could be, they could go small, I guess, and start a guard or something and just kind of move Josh Hart down to the 4. But I really don't know what Portland would do here without Jeremy Grant if he were to sit. Normally, I would say Justice Winslow would start, but obviously, he's out right now. So we'll just have to monitor that. We could get some value from Portland depending on who starts, but right now, I don't like much on this Portland team, even though it is kind of a good matchup against Indiana. We have a lot of games on this slate. There's some short-handed teams. I don't think Portland's going to be a team that I really load up on here. But if you want to go to Dame in tournaments or, maybe Simons or Hart, it's fine. Favorite play on the Blazers, though, is probably Nurkic at 6K. I definitely like that price tag. And then on the Indiana side, probably going to be avoiding Indiana here. I think Tyrese Halliburton at 9K is always someone you can look to in tournaments. I think on this slate, he's not like a standout option, but he's always a playable guy you could go to in GPPs. Same goes for Miles Turner at 6,700. But the rest of Indiana, I'm not super interested in. I think that's pretty much it for this game. So we can go ahead and move on to the next one, talk about the Bulls and the Sixers. So for the Sixers today, they're going to once again be without Joel Embiid. We can expect a really big role for James Harden, really big role for Tobias Harris, even Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey last game did play full minutes, 37 minutes, so I think he's pretty much off of his minutes restriction. I think he is someone we could look to today at 7K. But we'll start off with Harden, 10,100. Harden's expensive, obviously, but I think he's kind of worth the price tag. We actually, we haven't really seen Harden have a bunch of monster games without Embiid this season. I think a lot of the games he's played without Embiid this year, he's kind of been mediocre. Last game he put up 50 Draftkings points, and that was in overtime. At 10-1, I'm definitely interested in Harden today, though. I mean, we know he's going to have a big role. We know he can stuff the stat sheet. He can do everything when he's on the floor. I think with Tyrese Maxey coming back, and now that Tyrese Maxey is playing his full minutes, that definitely takes away from Harden a little bit. But not having Embiid just opens up so much usage. Obviously, Embiid is a very high-usage player, so Harden should be a big beneficiary. I think he's a really strong pay-up option today. I think Maxey and Harris are both viable plays in the mid-range. Tobias Harris has been pretty good in the games that he's played without Embiid this season. I think his price tag of 6,600 still looks pretty solid. I think, again, Maxey, now that he's playing his full minutes, I have some interest in at 7K. Probably going to pass on Melton. I think with everyone else healthy, Melton's kind of like the 4th option on this team, and he's not a guy that I'm super interested in at 6K. And then for value at center, last game they went small and played PJ Tucker at the 5. I'm guessing they'll do that again, but in this matchup against Vooch, maybe they elect to start someone else. We did see Montrezl Harrell play really well off the bench last game. He had a big game, had 19 points, 5 rebounds, 4 blocks, 36 Draftkings points. If Montrezl Harrell does start at 4,500, I'd be interested in him as a value play. If he comes off the bench, it's going to be tough to tell really how many minutes he plays off the bench, so probably going to pass on him if he's coming off the bench, but if he is in the starting lineup, that would definitely make me confident that he plays at least like 24, 25 minutes, which would make him a viable cheap option at 4,500. But then on the Chicago side, looking at the Bulls here, not too much interest in the Bulls except for one guy. I think Nikola Vucevic is kind of in a sneaky good spot here, facing a Sixers team without Joel Embiid. It's either going to be like PJ Tucker or Montrezl Harrell or Paul Reed that guards Vooch here. And Vooch is someone that can definitely win in easy matchups, and especially going up against an undersized guy like PJ Tucker. I know Tucker's always been a strong defender, but I think this is a spot Vooch can definitely have success, and I think his ownership is going to be very low on a big slate like this. So I would say my favorite play on Chicago is probably Vooch at 7,300. He had a really big game against the Sixers earlier this year, and I think that was with Embiid playing, if I remember correctly. I want to check just to make sure. Yeah, Embiid played that game, and Vooch had like 55 DraftKings points against Embiid. Now facing the Sixers without Embiid, I mean, this is an even better matchup for Vooch. So I do like Vooch quite a bit as a tournament play. DeRozan and Levine, they're always viable, but I don't think on this slate I'm really going to look to either one. And the rest of Chicago, I'll pretty much pass on, I think. I know Patrick Williams has had some good games lately. He's also been playing pretty big minutes, but he's never been like the best per-minute producer. So even if he does continue to play big minutes, at 4K, I don't think he's like a standout value, but we'll have to wait and see like what kind of value opens up today. If no value opens up, then yeah, Patrick Williams is fine, but I would say there's probably going to be some other values I prefer today. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game, the Knicks and the Raptors. So for the Knicks, right now with this team, they're running a super tight rotation. They're playing their main guys huge minutes. Julius Randle's been playing out of his mind lately and playing huge minutes every night. I think this is kind of a tougher matchup against the Raptors, a good defensive team. He's probably going to see OG Anunoby here, who is a really strong defender. Don't love the spot for Randle. He's been playing great lately, but I think I'll probably avoid him on the slate. Jalen Brunson, I think at 7,900 looks a little bit more appealing. Not the best matchup for him either, going up against the Raptors, but we should see him have a really big role, play big minutes, and obviously without RJ Barrett, right now there's even more usage available for Brunson, for Randle. So between the two Knicks guys, between Randle and Brunson, I would probably prefer Brunson given the savings. Don't love either one though. And the rest of the Knicks, like Quickly and Grimes and Mitchell Robinson, I'm probably just going to pass on today. On the Raptors side, I don't really like much on the Raptors either. They're a tough team to gauge when they're fully healthy. You just never know who's going to be the guy that has the big game. Tough matchup for Siakam going up against a Knicks team that does a pretty good job, protecting the paint. They don't really allow many points in the paint, and that's where Siakam's going to do a lot of his damage. So don't love the spot for Siakam, but then again, I think last time these teams played, Siakam, he had 76 DraftKings points, so even though it is kind of a tough matchup, it might not even matter. I mean, I think Siakam is still a tournament play, but I'm not, going to go out of my way to play him on this slate. VanVleet, Barnes, OG, if they're price tags, they look okay, but, none of them stand out as priority plays. My favorite would probably be VanVleet, just because 7,400 is definitely a price tag that he can easily outperform. We saw him obviously go nuts last game against the Bucks, played 47 minutes. I mean, the dude's playing massive minutes right now. I know that game went to overtime, but even even before overtime, he was playing 42 minutes. So if it's a close game, we're gonna get 40 minutes from Fred VanVleet. At 7,400, I think he's solid. He's probably my favorite play on the Raptors, and then Siakam, and then after that, I'm probably just gonna pass. I know Gary Trent's had some good games lately, but again, 11-game slate. Don't really see myself rostering Gary Trent when he's almost 6K and the team's fully healthy. So let's move on to the next game, the Nets and the Pelicans. So for the Pelicans today, once again, they're going to be really short-handed. No Zion Williamson, no Brandon Ingram, so we can expect a big role for CJ McCollum, big role for Jonas Valanciunas. I think CJ McCollum at 8,500 does feel priced about right here, but obviously without Zion and without Ingram, McCollum's going to have a really big role, play big minutes. The ball's going to be in his hands a ton. He's going to dominate the usage as well. Matchup against the Nets, I think, is okay. I don't think it's a great spot, but I don't think it's a bad spot either. I'm fine going to CJ McCollum today. I think he's firmly in play. But I would say my favorite play from the Pelicans is probably Jonas Valanciunas. 6,500 for J-Val, I really like here. Obviously, no Zion helps to give more usage to J-Val. And also, Larry Nance was out last game. We'll have to keep an eye on his status for today. He's questionable. If Larry Nance were to sit, that would make me feel even more confident that J-Val plays big minutes. We saw J-Val last game get 32 minutes, and when J-Val plays over 30 minutes, he can easily put up 40-plus DraftKings points. He put up 41 DK points last game in 32 minutes. The Nets are a team, the Nets are a team. They can give up big games to centers. We've seen centers do well against Brooklyn this year. When these teams played earlier this season, last time they played, J-Val did have 37 DraftKings points in only 26 minutes. If there's no Larry Nance today, and without Zion as well, we could see 30-plus minutes once again from J-Val. So at 6,500, I do like J-Val quite a bit today. And then value-wise from the Pelicans, without Zion and without Ingram, we can expect pretty solid minutes for Najee Marshall, for Trey Murphy, for Herb Jones. These guys I liked a lot last slate. We'll have to see what kind of value we get today. I think there's still playable options. I mean, last game, Najee Marshall played 33 minutes, had almost 30 DraftKings points. He's been, solid in the game that he has started this season. Trey Murphy wasn't super productive, but he played decent minutes. I think he'd be an okay value. So I'm fine with these Pelicans guys for value. I don't think they're like standout plays, but again, we'll have to wait and see like what kind of value opens up as the day goes on. If no value opens up, then I'm fine playing Marshall and Murphy just because they're going to play a lot, and obviously there's a lot of usage available without Zion and without Ingram. But then on the other side, looking at the Nets here, so you got Kevin Durant coming in at 10K, you got Kyrie at 8,700. Normally, when I'm choosing between KD or Kyrie, if I'm going to go to one of the two, I usually prefer KD when they're kind of priced closely. Given the $1,300 gap, I don't know if that's a big enough gap for me to want to go down to Kyrie, so I think I probably would go with KD over Kyrie today if I had to choose between one of the two. Obviously, KD had the huge game last game against Chicago, put up 63 DraftKings points in 38 minutes, had a really big game. I think he's firmly in play as a pay-up option. I normally don't go out of my way to play Kevin Durant, but I think he's fine on this slate. I think Kyrie Irving's fine as well. Neither one stand out as priority plays, but these guys are going to play huge minutes. The offense is going to run through these two guys. They obviously have upside. Now, the rest of Brooklyn, probably going to pass on Claxton, Simmons. None of these other guys really stand out. If I'm going to roster any Nets today, it's going to be one of Kyrie or KD. So that'll do it for that game. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, guys, Washington and OKC. So for OKC today, pretty straightforward here. I don't see too much I like on the Thunder. I think SGA is always someone you can look to in tournaments. I think this matchup against the Wizards is totally fine for him. SGA is one of these guys that can put up a huge game in any matchup, and he put up 62 DraftKings points against the Wizards earlier this year. You always have to worry about blowout when you're talking about the Thunder, but the Thunder are playing at home here. Hopefully this game does stay competitive. If it does, I think SGA offers plenty of upside. I think he's in play. Not really interested in many other Thunder guys, though. But I do want to mention that OKC is going to be really shorthanded at center. So no Poku, no JRE, and no Jalen Williams. So most likely scenario is that either, Mike Muscala starts at center, Darius Bazley starts at center, or they go small and start Kendrick Williams at center, which I think they did pretty recently. They started Kendrick Williams at center pretty recently. Kendrick Williams, even in the game he started, he didn't play a ton of minutes. He played 20-something minutes, but if they go with Kendrick Williams as the starting center, 3,700 is pretty cheap for Kendrick Williams, and he's not the worst per minute producer. He's a guy that can put up a decent game when he does get the minutes. The only issue with the Thunder is that they just run such a deep rotation. They're going to play so many guys. You'll see Bazley get some minutes. You'll see Muscala get some minutes. But if Kendrick Williams is starting at center, I do have some interest in him as a value play. If they start Muscala at center, he could be viable. He's only 3,400. If they start Darius Bazley at center, he's minimum salary $3K. Bazley is a good per minute producer. Most times when he gets minutes, he's going to produce. And at only $3K, I think he would look like a decent value play if he were to draw the start here. But we'll have to pay attention to that Thunder starting lineup because without Jalen Williams and without Poku and without JRE, they're down a ton of big men right now. So we'll have to keep an eye on who starts here. But then on the other side with the Wizards, no Bradley Beal for Washington today. So we can expect a big role for both Porzingis and Kuzma. And obviously it is a fantastic matchup for Porzingis. We've seen the Thunder give up huge games to centers this season. Porzingis put up almost 50 DraftKings points against OKC earlier this year. The only issue with Porzingis is he's really expensive. He's 9,600, and at 9,600, you need a 55, 60-point game from Porzingis to really justify this salary. Does he have that kind of upside in him in this matchup? He absolutely does. I would not be surprised if Porzingis put up 60 DraftKings points a night, but this price tag just makes him kind of a GPP play. I wouldn't consider him a priority or a cash game option, but for tournaments, he definitely has the upside in this matchup to pay off that price tag. Kyle Kuzma, though, given the savings, I would probably prefer straight up, in talking about cash games. I think Kuzma is going to project pretty well at his salary. I think the matchup's pretty good for him. 8,400 is definitely, cheap enough for Kuzma here without Beal. When Beal's out, Kuzma should be 9K, and he has shown that he can put up, 45, 50-point DraftKings points every night without Beal. So I do have some interest in Kuzma as well. Rest of the Wizards, though, probably going to pass on Monte Morris, Rui, Gafford. The rest of these guys, I think I'll avoid. I don't see too much else I like on Washington outside of the top two guys, Porzingis and Kuzma. So let's move on to the next game, the Hornets and the Bucks. So the Bucks here, they're in a fantastic matchup against Charlotte. Charlotte defensively as of late has just been, they haven't been able to stop anyone. So Giannis is in a fantastic matchup here. The only issue is that Charlotte has just looked so terrible lately. This game does have a lot of blowout risk, but man, if Giannis plays his full minutes against this Hornets team, like he could put up 100 DraftKings points tonight. Like Charlotte is going to have no answer for Giannis. This could definitely be one of those games where he has like a massive triple-double or, 40 points, 20 rebounds type of game. I think it's a really good spot for Giannis. 12K price tag is obviously high, but in this spot, I think he's definitely got the upside to pay off this price tag. Again, what you worry about most is, can Charlotte keep the game close? That's the big concern. If they can, if they do, I think Giannis offers a ton of upside here. I think Drew's in a really good spot as well at 8,100. I don't mind Drew on this slate. He's normally not a guy that I'll ever look to roster, but I think he's in a pretty good spot. I think Brook Lopez is in a pretty good spot. We've seen Charlotte give up a ton of big games to centers. Charlotte also allows a lot of block shots, and we know Brook Lopez is a great shot blocker, so I think it's a really good spot for Brook Lopez. He did put up 38 DraftKings points in 32 minutes against Charlotte earlier this season for what it's worth. He's had some good games lately. He's been playing good minutes this season. I don't mind Brook Lopez at 6K as a GPP play. It's probably it, though, for Milwaukee. And then on the other side with the Hornets here, if you are going to roster some Bucks today, maybe it makes sense to play a couple Hornets or maybe one Hornet like a LaMelo or a Terry Rozier, just because if this game does stay close, both these teams do play somewhat fast, especially Charlotte. So if this game does stay close, it could be a pretty high-scoring game. And I know these teams have played multiple times in the past, as of late, and it's been a lot of their games have been really high-scoring. So I think LaMelo, it's not the best matchup for LaMelo, but we know he has just a ton of upside, and we know if this game is close, he's going to play huge minutes. The matchup makes him more of a secondary option for me, but I think he's still viable. And if you want to play like Giannis and LaMelo together in tournaments as like a correlated stat kind of, I really don't hate that because I think that definitely could pay off if this game does stay competitive. Terry Rozier at 6,900 feels priced about right, but he's going to continue to have a big role without Kelly Oubre and potentially without Gordon Hayward. We don't really have any news yet on Gordon Hayward. Going to have to keep an eye on his status. He didn't play last game. We did see Jalen McDaniels start in place of Gordon Hayward, and Jalen McDaniels did play pretty well. He had 31 DraftKings points. He played 27 minutes. He did lose some minutes in that game due to blowout, so he probably would have played more had the game been competitive. I think if this game's competitive, we're probably going to get over 30 minutes from Jalen McDaniels, assuming Gordon Hayward is out again. So if Gordon Hayward is out again, I do like McDaniels as a value play. I worry about him if he's going to have to guard Giannis. I think that's definitely a scary spot where he could definitely get into some foul trouble. But we've seen McDaniels being pretty productive in the minutes he gets this season, and without Oubre, without Hayward, I mean, they're really shorthanded right now, and they would definitely have to play McDaniels a lot of minutes here. So I do like him as a value play, if Hayward is out. But that'll do it for Charlotte. Don't see too much else I like here. So let's move on to the next game. Talk about the Spurs and the Pistons. So I would think the two worst defensive teams in the league going up against each other. I'm pretty sure the Pistons or the Spurs are dead last in defensive rating this year, and the Pistons are second to last. So neither one of these teams play defense. I think there's a good chance that somebody in this game is going to do well because there's going to be points scored here. I think Keldon Johnson's in a really good spot. I think Keldon Johnson at 6,800 looks like a great option today. No Devin Vassell, so obviously Keldon Johnson's going to take on an even bigger role. The main thing you have to worry about with the Spurs is that they're such a bad team. They're going to get blown out a ton, but they're facing a bad team. So when you have two bad teams going up against each other, normally it indicates a competitive game, and I think we should see a competitive game here. And Detroit is so bad defensively that I think it's a really good spot for Keldon Johnson. The price tag is definitely too cheap without Devin Vassell, so really like Keldon Johnson today. I think Trey Jones in a pretty good spot. I don't mind him at 5,700. I think Jakob Poeltl's in a pretty good spot at 5,800. He's been getting more minutes lately. As long as he avoids foul trouble, I think he'll play about 30 minutes here. Matchup against the Pistons, I think is definitely good. So I do like Poeltl today. I don't know if there's going to be any value to go to from the Spurs. Without Devin Vassell, we'll have to wait and see what they do with the starting lineup. It'll probably be like Malachi Branham or maybe Romeo Langford that starts. I don't think either one of those guys are going to look super appealing for value, but they are cheap. It's a good matchup. I don't hate going there. Josh Richardson, I think, picks up a few more minutes without Devin Vassell. If he winds up playing today, I think he could be someone worth considering for value. That's probably it from the Spurs. I definitely think Keldon Johnson at 6,800 looks really appealing today, and I think Trey Jones at 5,700 looks pretty solid as well, but I do like Keldon the most here. And then on the Detroit side, obviously a really good matchup for the Pistons. I mean, the Spurs are a terrible defensive team. The Spurs also play at a fast pace, so I think it's a really good spot for Bojan, good spot for Killian Hayes and Jay Ivey. Again, I think it's a good chance somebody on Detroit's going to do well today. If I had to bank on anyone, it would probably be Bojan, just because Bojan has shown the most upside. He's going to get most of the usage, and Obviously, he's a scoring-dependent player, but he's shown the ability to have big games to still pay off a $6,300 salary. So I do have some interest in Bojan today. I think Jalen Duren's in a pretty good spot against the Spurs. I mean, the Spurs have given up some big games to centers this season, and Duren's been getting good minutes as of late. He's been playing low 30s minutes most nights. He's only 4,900 as well, so him and Bojan, I think, look pretty appealing as value plays. So I do have some interest in him as well as a cheap option. But that'll probably do it for this game. I mean, there's a lot to like for sure, just because you have two terrible defensive teams playing each other. Definitely think, though, my favorite play overall is Keldon Johnson. I think he looks like a really appealing option and a great matchup. But that'll do it for that one. Let's move on to the next game, Cleveland and Denver. And this is another one where there's a lot to like. We'll start off on the Denver side. So Denver, they are on a back-to-back today. They're playing the Clippers right now as I'm recording this video, and they're actually blowing out the Clippers right now. It's a back-to-back, so we'll have to monitor the injury report. I know Jamal Murray has rested on some back-to-backs as of late, so we'll have to see if he plays for today. I'd assume everyone else would be good to go, though. It's not the best spot for Jokic. Jokic is obviously a matchup-proof player, but against this Cleveland team that does a really good job limiting opposing bigs, I'll probably pass on Jokic today. The rest of Denver, I'll probably pass on as well. I really don't like much on Denver. By some chance, if Jamal Murray does sit on the back-to-back, then I think we could look to Bones Highland. We could look to Bruce Brown. Both those guys would be very appealing options, but until we get news on Murray, we just kind of have to assume that he's playing. Cleveland, though, that's where there's a lot to like. On the Cleveland side, no Donovan Mitchell. They've already said that he's going to rest this game. So without Donovan Mitchell, we can expect a really big role for Karis LeVert. And if Darius Garland plays, we can expect a big role for Darius Garland. Now, right now, Darius Garland is listed as questionable. I think Garland has been out the last 2 or 3 games. So we're going to have to monitor this. If Garland plays, obviously without Mitchell, we can expect Garland to take on a big role. It's a great matchup, too. I know Denver's given up some big games to point guards this season. So 8K Garland, I'm fine going to Garland at 8K, without Mitchell here. I think he'd be a really appealing option. I think even if Garland plays, I think Karis LeVert at 5,800 looks great. I mean, Karis LeVert this season in the games that he has started without one of Mitchell or Garland, he's been really good. And especially without Mitchell, there's a lot of usage available. And we know LeVert's going to play big minutes as a starter. The last few games, he's played huge minutes. Price tag at 5,800 is still reasonable. I definitely like Karis LeVert today. Made him the thumbnail for this video. I think he's in a really good spot. And then Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, I think, are fine. I think Mobley's a guy that can pick up some more usage here without Mitchell, and especially without Garland, too. If he were to sit, I think that would be even better for Mobley. So I do like Mobley quite a bit. And then if Darius Garland does not play, we'll have to wait and see what Cleveland does with the starting lineup. So they could start Karis LeVert at point guard and just, maybe Lamar Stevens starts or something, or maybe they start Jetty Osman. Or we could see Raul Neto start. Now, if Neto starts, he's only 3,400. He's not the greatest per minute producer, but I think at this price tag, if he is in the starting lineup, he would be a really good value play. That's assuming that obviously Darius Garland does not play. If Darius Garland plays, then no interest in Neto. But if Garland is out and Neto draws the start, I have a lot of interest in him as a value. If Garland is out and they elect to start Jetty Osman, I'd have a lot of interest in Osman. He's cheap. He'd be in play. So I'm going to have to monitor that. But for right now, assuming that Garland is in, really like Garland, really like LeVert, and I like Mobley quite a bit as well. And obviously, if Garland sits, Mobley, LeVert look even better. And then value-wise, whoever starts will be, in play for value. But that'll do it for that game. Let's move on to the next one, the Clippers and the Timberwolves. So the Clippers, they're another team on a back-to-back today. Like I said, they're getting blown out right now by Denver on Thursday night. So we'll have to see. We'll have to monitor the Clippers injury report here. Anytime the Clippers are on a back-to-back, they're always a chance they're going to rest a bunch of guys. Now, Paul George was questionable for Thursday's game. He ultimately wound up playing. We'll have to see if he plays today. Kawhi Leonard's a back-to-back, so there's a good chance Kawhi Leonard doesn't play here. I don't think Kawhi Leonard has played a back-to-back yet this season. So probably going to say, probably Kawhi's going to be out. Don't know yet about Paul George, though. If Paul George plays here, then I think he's in a pretty good spot without Kawhi. 8,900 is definitely cheap for Paul George playing without Kawhi in a decent matchup against Minnesota, what should be a fast-paced game. I do have some interest in PG if he's able to go today. In a scenario where both Paul George and Kawhi are out, then there's going to be a lot of value to go to from the Clippers. I mean, all these guys are cheap. Zubac's cheap. Marcus Morris is 5K. John Wall didn't play Thursday, but he should be back for today. He'd be a really good value play. Reggie Jackson's really cheap. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see here with the Clippers. Terrence Mann is really cheap. I think for right now, we can expect Kawhi to sit on the back-to-back. I think there's a chance Paul George sits as well. But for now, expecting Paul George to play, I think he's my favorite play from the Clippers. And I think value-wise, without Kawhi most likely, you could maybe go to Norman Powell or maybe Terrence Mann. I don't love any of the Clippers' value right now, but that will definitely change if we get word that both Kawhi and PG are out, then there's going to be a lot of value to go to from the Clippers. And like I said, man, it seems like every time the Clippers are on a back-to-back, they always sit a bunch of guys. And we just don't have any information yet, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. On the Minnesota side, though, don't like much on Minnesota. Anthony Edwards is not in the best spot here. That is assuming that Paul George plays, because he would probably guard Anthony Edwards here. But like if Paul George and Kawhi are out, I think the matchup definitely gets better for Anthony Edwards. 9,100 feels like an appropriate price tag for him, but obviously Anthony Edwards is taking on a really big role right now, playing huge minutes, taking a ton of shots every night. I still think he would be a viable GPP option even in kind of a tougher matchup. I think the rest of Minnesota, like D'Angelo Russell, Rudy Gobert, Kyle Anderson, these guys I'll probably pass on. I know Gobert has historically really struggled against the Clippers. The Clippers do a really good job of they play small against Gobert and they just kind of stretch the floor. They keep him away from the basket, which that's his weakness. I mean, Gobert is at his best when he's able to stay under the basket, block shots, grab rebounds. When he's not doing that, he's really not going to do anything else. So don't love the spot for Gobert. Rest of Minnesota, probably going to pass on. I think if I'm going to play any Timberwolves today, it probably would be Anthony Edwards. But definitely, the Clippers side of this game is what's going to be really appealing because there could be a lot of value from the Clippers today if they decide to rest either Kawhi or Paul George or both. I think there's a good chance Kawhi is going to sit. Maybe Paul George sits as well. But let's move on to the next game. We got two more to go over, guys. So Miami and Phoenix. Not much I like in this one. This should be a good game to watch, but I don't think for DFS purposes it's going to be one that I'm super interested in. Without Devin Booker, I think we can still expect Chris Paul to play big minutes, to have a really big workload. So at 7,600, if I was going to play anyone on the Suns today, it probably would be Chris Paul. He'd be the first guy that I would click. We did see Chris Paul play 40 minutes last game, so his minutes have really been up there. As long as this game does stay close, I think we can expect really big minutes from CP3. And clearly, without Devin Booker, his upside is much, much higher. So I do have interest in him, but Ayton and Bridges, I'll probably pass on. The rest of the rest of the Suns, I'll probably pass on. And then on the other side with the Heat, not the best matchup for Miami going up against Phoenix. Bam, Jimmy, Hero, Lowry, they all feel priced correctly for this matchup. Jimmy at 8,700 feels a little too cheap. Like I definitely think he should be above 9K. Again, the matchup's not great, but we know Jimmy gets up for these big games. He usually plays well against these big-time opponents. He's going to play huge minutes if it's a close game. The Heat have not been playing that well lately. They've been losing a lot of games they probably should be winning. Obviously, they need to lean on their stars right now. We can expect really big minutes from Jimmy. So 8,700 for Jimmy. I'm fine going to him at that price tag. The rest of Miami, though, I'll probably pass on here. And then we can go ahead and move on to the next game, I think. Last game of the night, the Hawks and the Lakers. So for the Lakers today, LeBron is expected back for this game, and I think it's a really good matchup for LeBron. We did see him have a huge game against Atlanta last time they played. He put up that massive 76 drafting point game, almost had a triple-double. Atlanta, I mean, they just don't have anyone to really stop LeBron here. They got DeAndre Hunter back, but Hunter's a good defender, but he's not going to slow down LeBron. I think it's a really good spot for LeBron once again. I think LeBron's a really good pay-up option. The rest of the Lakers, though, I'm not super interested in. Westbrook, I'll pass on. Thomas Bryant at 6,200, I don't mind. He did do really well against Atlanta when they last played. He had 46 DraftKings points. He played 34 minutes. His minutes have been pretty strong as of late, so Thomas Bryant is a playable option. And then, value-wise from the Lakers, Dennis Schroeder had a really big game last game, but I think a lot of that had to do with LeBron being out. Now that LeBron's back, probably going to pass on Schroeder. There is no Lonnie Walker. There is no Austin Reeves. Troy Brown could maybe be out, so, there could be some minutes available for some of these other guys like Max Christie or Kendrick Nunn or JTA, but man, on an 11-game slate, I really don't want to be rostering these Lakers value guys just because none of them offer that much upside. If I'm going to play any Lakers, I'm just going to play LeBron. I really don't want to be rostering these fringe values. So that's pretty much it for the Lakers. And then on the other side with Atlanta, it's definitely a good spot for Atlanta here going up against the Lakers. Lakers play fast. They don't really play much defense either. This should be a really high-scoring game. Last time they played, it was really high-scoring. I think Trae Young and DeJounte Murray are both in really good spots. Trae Young is only 9,400. DeJounte Murray is only 8,300. Man, I really like these Atlanta guards today. I think it makes sense to play at least one of these two guys in some lineups today. Honestly, if you're playing 150 lineups, I would mix in both Trae and DeJounte across all my lineups because I think one of them is likely to have a good game here. Now, last time they played, Trae only had 44 DK points in 36 minutes. A little bit of a disappointing game. DeJounte, on the other hand, had 44 DK points in 39 minutes. DeJounte has been playing pretty well as of late, and he's been playing huge minutes too. So for 8,300, I think I slightly prefer DeJounte over Trey, but I think it's really close. I think both Atlanta guards do look good here. And again, I think it's likely one of them has a good game and pays off their price tag. I would lean DeJounte, but I think both guys look solid. The rest of Atlanta, I'm still okay going to the bigs. With Clint Capella out, I think John Collins and Onyeka Okongwu are both playable. Now, last time these teams played, John Collins got into some massive foul trouble, but man, when he's not been in foul trouble, look at John Collins' game log. 41 minutes against Sacramento, 50 Draftkings points. 40 minutes against Golden State. I know that game went to overtime, but 49 DK points. He's been really good when he's stayed out of foul trouble. The only issue, that game against the Lakers, 17 DK points, 23 minutes. He got into some foul trouble then. But he's really benefited lately without Clint Capella. His permanent production has been great. His rebounding numbers have been great as well. At 6,400, I'm still interested in John Collins. Still interested in Onyeka Okongwu. I think it's a really good matchup for him. We saw him do really well against the Lakers. Had 36 DK points. He played huge minutes, obviously, because of Collins' foul trouble. But we can still expect Okongwu to play big minutes here without Capella. And again, the Lakers have given up some big games to centers. Their center defense, in terms of fantasy points allowed to the center position, they do give up a lot of fantasy points to centers, and especially without Anthony Davis, their defense is going to be even weaker. So I do like both the Atlanta bigs. And that's probably it from the Hawks. I don't see too much else I like here. So that'll do it, guys, for this big Friday night slate for Friday, January 5th, 11-game slate. Big slate tonight. Hopefully we can all win some money tonight. But I do appreciate you guys watching this video. As always, appreciate your support on these DFS videos. Hit that like button if you guys enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And again, if you guys are new to the channel, go check out PrizePicks, sponsor of the video. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks. Use my promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up for PrizePicks with my promo code. Check them out if you have not already. But again, wish you guys the best of luck tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.